rattled somebody's cage. Bro, get away from there. Oh, that was messy as shit.
My dudes, hello and welcome back. With the Steam Summer Sale in full swing, it's time to venture forth into our long-forgotten wish lists and scoop up all of the games at sweet, sweet, criminally low prices. These days, there are far more interesting games coming out than one can realistically play at release, especially on PC, and now even more often for consoles, with their respective digital marketplaces having continually grown in popularity. I don't make nearly enough money to be paying full price for everything that catches my eye, so these sale events are a godsend for filling out my library with the greatest hits of the recent past. In today's world, between content patches and definitive editions, the titles we pick up late have often evolved, for better or worse, from the state they were in at launch, and more specifically, the state they were in during their review cycle. So here we find ourselves, discounts as far as the eye can see, and in need of relevant information so that we can make some informed purchases. In this spirit, I give you the first installment in an ongoing series, Quinn's late to the party review of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. Wildlands is similar to its Tom Clancy brethren in the sense that it's a squad-based tac shooter, but different in that it takes place in a truly sprawling open-world Bolivia. Fellas, this map is fucking huge. I've played a lot of big open-world games, but this one is estimated to be 3 times the size of GTA 5's map, which is almost unfathomable until you're tearing your way across it. To demonstrate just how insanely huge this is, I'm going to throw a clip in the corner during the video that is just me flying across the map in a helicopter from one end to the other. I'm gonna have to fly low to avoid surface-to-air missiles, but you'll get a sense of scale for the world. As to its quality, it seems to be a pretty faithful rendition of the Bolivian terrain, with all of its notable features from dense jungles to dead, lonely salt flats. I won't spend a ton of time on graphics and sound because they are both perfectly serviceable, leaning more towards excellence than mediocrity. The terrain looks splendid on PC, with draw distances that go on seemingly forever, and the soundstage, specifically for firefights, is remarkable.
Done, the more we can get out of him in return.
Firing. Rattle the cage.
In any event, both of these aspects are great, but you won't see The Witcher 3's lighting engine or Rainbow Six Siege's sound design. The story follows your team, a tabula rasa group of special forces ghosts that allow the game to cheaply skip over any actual backstory. During the game, your team will dismantle the Santa Blanca drug cartel that has effectively taken over the Bolivian administration and its Unidad security forces. Sadly, there isn't anything here that you haven't seen 1,000 times in other games and movies. Just another brutal, expansive drug enterprise that opens the stage for Wildlands' gameplay loop to thrive. Instead of using traditional cutscenes, story elements are given through short 1 or 2 minute briefing videos in the same vein as The Division and the Rainbow Six Siege operator videos. These are attractive and interesting to watch, but do absolutely nothing for making you feel like an active actor in the game's proceedings. One of the only significant ties between the story and the gameplay itself is the way the map has been divided into provinces. There are a large number of regions, each roughly 5 square kilometers, that are each controlled by a specific cartel member of varying importance. The cartel structure is split into 4 operations: security, trafficking, production, and influence, each with its own department head and their respective underbosses. This was a smart decision on the devs' part. It adds some variety to each province, with different enemy types, terrain, and story, which gives what would otherwise be a fairly derivative gameplay loop some spice. While this element does a great deal well, I can't help but feel it was a missed opportunity to go further by doubling down on the cartel politics and the characters therein. Looking at the organization's map is particularly reminiscent of the newest Lord of the Rings games and their Nemesis system, where even simple disparity between enemies can drastically change the feel of gameplay and inject life into otherwise flat, bland characters. I know that that's a big ask for this type of game, but with the size of the development studio and budget from the publishers, it doesn't seem so unreasonable as to be outside the realm of possibility. Even without a more engaging structure, the gameplay loop and mechanics here are solid, and the controls are tight and responsive. Falling somewhere between Rainbow Six and Arma 3, the tactical aspect of this game is both accessible to new players and deep enough to satisfy genre veterans. Commonplace Tom Clancy mechanics like fully customizable weapons and target marking drones find their home here, and when used together with the full potential of squad play, produce a symphony of precision mayhem. The game shines absolutely brightest on its hardest difficulty, while players take full advantage of the tools available to them. You could play on easy and approach this like any other shooter, but you would be missing out on the best the game has to offer. Treating it like a combat simulator, staying in stealth until it's no longer an option, and then strategically moving from cover to cover, dropping flashbangs and squad commands, will prove to be a stimulating experience. One of my favorite things to do is go prone just on the edge of visibility, pull out my sniper rifle and mark targets for my squad mates to perform a synchronized shot, immediately dropping 4 targets, survivors diving for cover in panic. This isn't the only way to go about things, of course. You could choose to disable a base's electrical systems, which will cut both lights and alarms, fire your underbarrel grenade launcher at a nearby helicopter, and then flip on thermal imaging to clear the confused enemies with precision headshots. Say you need to retrieve some supplies for upgrades from a moving armored convoy. You can get ahead of it and put landmines down on the convoy's path, and then wait in the bushes off the road to handle the incoming aftermath. Maybe you would rather pilot a helicopter alongside or above the convoy, and have your squad mates fire down on the lead vehicle, forcing your target off the road. Hell, why not even grab your own armored SUV and Mad Max your way to victory with the attached minigun? You can do it whichever way you want to, and this variety is the best part of the game. Throughout the game, you'll be told to kill this target, destroy this cocaine, rescue this person, and other similarly generic missions. All things considered, however, it's much more of a sandbox game than it looks to be on the surface. As far as armaments go, the game offers an overwhelming amount of options. You'll start with a handful of weapons and attachments unlocked, as well as a small number of skills like night vision or the use of your drone. Instead of buying weapons as is common in similar games, you will need to find them spread across the map. Same goes for attachments and skill points. Every province in the game has a lot of stuff that you can collect, and you can force their positions to be marked by collecting intel from either interrogating enemy lieutenants or finding it randomly strewn about. I find myself obsessively hunting them down, and need to force myself to moderate what I'm doing so that I don't burn myself out during a session. After opening a weapon or attachment crate in the world, you'll be able to equip it from that point forward and incorporate it into your loadout. Picking up and using enemies' weapons won't permanently unlock it, so keep that in mind. If you happen upon a weapon that you like but haven't unlocked, you can look through the weapons menu for the province in which its crate is located. This is an incredibly useful tool for getting the weapons you want and saving time on the weapons that you don't. Skill points behave a little differently. You can find pickups for them, worth between just a single point or a whopping 5. When unlocking or ranking up new skills, you will need to spend both skill points and earned resources of varying types. You can find small, paltry resource caches while playing. They're common enough, but the big baller points come from completing side missions, which are often short tasks with a single objective. The game informs you when you're nearby one of these missions, and I would highly recommend that you always take the small amount of time to complete them. Resource costs can become rather exorbitant for the later skills, and it's going to be worth your while to stock up as best you can. Skills are broken down into several categories, from physical properties like damage reduction to weapon attachments like the underbarrel grenade launcher. There are also skills dedicated to strengthening your squad as a whole, like decreasing revive timers and adding additional sync shots. There isn't anything really flashy here. The game trends more towards realism wherever it can, but there is a lot of utility included for you to take advantage of. Because of my masochistic tendencies to collect everything around me, by the time I hit the game's halfway point, I had at least the first level of every skill in each tree, which is all that's needed to unlock the ultimate skill for each skill branch. It's really a damn shame that they didn't forego realism a little bit here to make these more interesting. It's not exactly exciting to unlock the final skill in a tree just to have it be reduced sway while sniping or slightly faster regen capabilities. It's an even further shame that I was able to so easily unlock all the skills in the game instead of having to make more meaningful decisions about what type of build I was going for. Builds or specializations are non-existent in Wildlands. We will all be playing the same homogenized character by the end, and that kind of sucks. A side effect of the map being so incredibly fucking huge is that it can take some serious time to move around it. You can fast travel from different rebel safe houses, but for the first time ever, I actually haven't been using fast travel often at all. There are a smattering of vehicle types to play with, and with the hilly countryside and serpentine road system, it can be a lot of fun just driving around and stopping for interesting things on the map or the occasional side mission. This type of ride-around gameplay draws a strong parallel to GTA 5, and like the earlier comparison to the Lord of the Rings franchise, it doesn't do Wildlands any favors. Although there is variety in vehicle types, there just isn't enough. There are probably 40 unique vehicles in the game, all things considered, and only about 10 of them are in any way interesting. With a map this large and so many unique cartel bosses, the game would have benefited greatly from increased diversity in this regard. The comparison is even more unfavorable when the driving, whether it be on the road or in the skies, doesn't feel as good as GTA's either. I got the hang of it eventually, and while barreling down a mountainside on a dirt bike can absolutely deliver some good times, it never hits the height of what could have been. When you spend such a large portion of the game driving or piloting, this becomes more apparent and aggravating the longer that you play. It's not like it's a deal breaker, but it could have easily been an asset. Due to endless community requests, sometime after the game's release, there was a free content patch that pushed in a 4v4 PvP game mode called Ghost War. I was skeptical that this was going to be worthwhile. Typically, anytime PvP is added to a game after the fact without it having always been in mind, it just isn't very good, and is generally an awkward, shoehorned abomination of single-player mechanics. I was wrong to judge a book by its cover in this case though, as Ghost War is a unique experience that you won't get anywhere else. Instead of dropping in the single-player systems from the main game, they transformed existing mechanics into a class-based progression system, not so dissimilar to Rainbow Six Siege. Players unlock classes and additional options for those classes as they play more games, and I was surprised by the number of available classes to choose from. In the time I spent playing, I gravitated towards a ghillie suit wearing sniper and a support class centered around a combat drone that spots and marks enemy players. Spending points in whichever class you choose will allow you to do things like modify your weapon modifications, or grant increased speed or battery life for your drone. There was another class called Point Man that caught my eye, that wields an assault rifle and has a passive that drastically weakens enemies' abilities to keep you marked. The maps you play on are pretty damn large, and stealth will absolutely play a factor if you'd like to go that route. There are several different modes you can play, ranging from standard deathmatch to my personal favorite, sabotage, in which the attacking team has to hold a radio point long enough to broadcast a signal, and the defending team has to stop them. I had a lot of fun crawling around the edge of the map in my ghillie suit until I was able to get behind the defending team. When my teammates would push for the objectives, the enemies would make themselves absurdly vulnerable to me, not expecting to be in danger from behind. Now, of course, this game mode doesn't have the player base of Overwatch or PUBG, so sometimes it will take a minute or two to get into a match, but the wait was never longer than that. One word to the wise though, this is a high skill ceiling game, and the people playing it are incredibly effective at what they're doing. If you're looking for something semi-serious to get involved with, I think you'll find both a challenge and friends here, but if you're looking to casually jump in and out of games and don't want to have to work too hard, this isn't the game for that. In typical Ubisoft fashion, there are a good number of classes that can only be unlocked through their DLC or premium currency, but there are certainly enough classes that you can unlock organically through gameplay that it's not massively impactful. All in all, Ghost War was a surprisingly solid addition to the main game, and I'm very grateful that they pushed it out for free. There are two content DLCs available for the game, Narco Road and Fallen Ghosts, neither of which have been terribly attractive to the community at large. They are structured as self-contained sets of very short missions, with a smattering of new mechanics that don't carry over into the main game. They didn't come included with the $20 version of the game that I got on sale, and I'm sad to say that after playing them on a friend's account, I didn't have any desire in getting them for myself. Narco Road was universally hated, and I can see why. It discarded the realistic themes of the main game without pushing that boundary far enough as to become entertaining, instead left to be a less fun excursion into locales that you've already played through in the campaign. Fallen Ghosts was received a little more favorably, setting the scene with Santa Blanca hiring a mercenary group to hunt your squad down. It plays like the main game, find intel and then act on it, but adds a few mildly underwhelming skills such as holding your breath for longer and allowing your drone to participate in sync shots. If you love the main game and want more, this is the DLC you should buy first. In summary, Ghost Recon Wildlands is a massive, fun-filled romp through Bolivia that you're going to be able to dump a huge amount of hours into. If you're looking for a time sink that you can jump in and out of at will, this isn't one that you're going to want to pass up on. Like many things, the game is better with friends, and although I didn't get to spend a significant amount of time in co-op, when I did, the game was firing on all cylinders. Due to the AI squad design and drop-in, drop-out co-op, whether it be with your buddies or the game's inbuilt matchmaking, everything in the game works better with more players, and if you can play with friends, you should. The game's greatest strength and weakness is the inevitable comparison it draws to big-name releases from days past. This game feels very much like a militarized Grand Theft Auto, which is truly an amazing gift, but it is haunted by the lack of gameplay diversity found in its inspiration. The cartel heads and their underbosses offer variety in the story and flavor to the characters without offering more impactful traits like we see in Shadows of Mordor. As is standard, I'll be offering scores between 1 and 10, but I'm not afraid to give out blisteringly low scores when needed, so when I say that Wildlands has earned a solid 7.5 from me, let it be known that this is a great game that is flawed in some ways and shines in others. If what you're looking for is a sandboxy, tactical squad shooter in a gorgeous world that you can sink some serious time into, then you have found it in Ghost Recon Wildlands. Thank you for giving me the time you spent watching this video. This series of late to the party reviews is something I'm excited to be able to work on. I buy a lot of games on sale like this, and if you can't tell yet, I love to tell anyone who will listen what I think of them. If my girlfriend keeps having to listen to me ramble on about things I love and hate about whatever games have captivated my attention from week to week, she's gonna fucking leave me. I have an incredible backlog of titles that I've spent countless hours in that I'll be working through. But in the meantime, if there are any games that you specifically request, I'll move them up the list so as to give updated, reliable information on titles everyone may have missed at release. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.